nominations are coming to an end, and we really want to encourage people to run in the election. It's all virtual this year, so it's obviously going to be a bit different to when you ran, but it'd be really good to kind of get an idea of what being a Sabb was like when you were a Sabb, and really just to get your insights, what your words of encouragement are, what your best bits, even your worst bits were. And so I think just, if we could get a little introduction of all of you, we'll start from top to bottom. My top to bottom is Subira, Hazmin, Zainab, and Jimi. And so if we just get a little introduction, when you were a Sabb, what Sabb role you were in, and what you're doing now, that'd be great.
Okay, so my Sabb role was from 2015 to 2017, and I was a community and welfare officer. And now at the moment, I'm the programs coordinator at the World Hepatitis Alliance. So I work with the notion of eliminating biohepatitis by 2030. So we work with WHO and different civil societies and civil services.
Excellent, thanks, Hazmin.
So my name is Hazmin, as some of you might know, and I was working as the academic affairs officer in 2015 to 2016, and currently working as a lead business analyst and a business change lead for an organization in an offbeat Yorkshire place, as someone very famous defined it within the union. Yeah, that's about me actually.
Cool, thank you, Hazmin. Zainab, what are you doing now, and what sub role did you have?
So I was the same as Hazmin, so I was academic affairs officer. The last time it was called academic affairs officer, I think it's called something different now. And I did that from 2017 to 2018. I now work for NHS England and NHS Improvement, and they basically do the leadership of the NHS for England, and I work in innovation and research and life sciences. So yeah, I'm a clinical innovation manager.
Excellent. And Jimi, tell us a little bit about what you're doing now and what sub role you had.
Yeah, hey guys, my name's Jimi, and in 2014 I was the Democracy and Development Officer, which is, I guess, the equivalent of the Student Affairs Officer today. Currently I'm working in the city, well, I guess I'm working from home, but I'm working in banking within a bank's client management team, and I've been there for a few years.
Excellent, thanks very much. So you're all in very good positions at the moment. You've all got very good jobs, very well-respected jobs. Do you think that, and feel free to jump in whenever, do you think that being a Sabb, your experience of being a Sabb improved that, whether that be work skills, confidence skills, or, and you can be honest, do you think maybe it didn't have much to do with it?
I think I'll go off. In my case, I always definitely attribute being a Sabb to the position I'm in now, and the progress of my career over the past couple of years. It definitely gave me early lessons that I wouldn't have learned had I jumped straight into the working world when it comes to dealing with stakeholders, managing a team. Well, although I wasn't managing there, but whilst I manage a team now, it's definitely given me a heads up on how I deal with people as well. I also think it gave me an edge in terms of my confidence levels as well when it came to approaching roles that I went for. Having given speeches before at university, having spoken to large crowds, having dealt with senior stakeholders, I didn't feel as nervous as I would normally have done going into positions that I did now. So I definitely attribute me being a Sabb to where I am now. It definitely put me in the right path. It definitely helped and aided in my career as well.
Real.
I completely echo what Jimi says, and I think I remember when I had my assessment centre before I joined the NHS Graduate Management Training Scheme, and so many of the role plays that I...
Sorry,
you went mute.
You're muted.
Can you hear me? Is that better?
Yeah, okay, no worries.
Technical issues today, sorry. I was just saying that I completely echo what Jimi says, and I remember when I went for my assessment centre when I was joining a grad scheme and I was applying for it, and actually all of the role plays, I used lessons that I had learned from my experience as a Sabb. And I remember turning around later after the assessment centre and turning around to my mum and said, I swear, if I hadn't been a Sabb, I would not have passed that assessment centre. So there was just so many things that I had learned, transferable skills, and also around the confidence. So similar to what Jimmy said, just being able to do all that and do it well meant that now in my career, I also don't doubt my abilities as much. And when I might be in a sticky situation, I remind myself, you know what, you've been in this position before and you did okay, so you've got this.
And would you say that being a sub, being a sub helped you get that role? Was that more because it looked good in your CV, or do you think it shaped you as a person, or a bit of both?
Shaped me as a person. Sorry, that wasn't for me. Sabira, go on.
No, I think it was for you. No, I think it was. Continue. Go on.
I was going to say, definitely shaped me as a person, and I was able to learn actual transferable skills, so people skills, the influencing skills, all the communication skills. It's all those kind of stuff that they are looking for when you go to assessment centre, and they're skills that I basically honed in on during my Sabb year.
Excellent. That was free, by the way, Zainab, so don't worry. But Subira and Hazmin, feel free to.
Yeah, I think going off that, I think it's also using your own initiative. I think being a Sabb, it's that to some extent you are left to your own devices, and then bringing that also into the workforce is being able to understand if there is a problem. There's so many different ways to go about solving it, and I think that's something I definitely picked up during my Sabb years, just being like, okay, this is a problem. What is the best way to fix it, and how quickly can I do that? Because as a Sabb, you always have kind of other people on your back. You're always being held accountable, and being able to bring that into the workforce, it's like in your mind you're always thinking, okay, someone's like checking for me, I'm going to have student council meetings every week, so everything has to be up to date. And I think taking that from being a Sabb into the workforce just makes you so much more efficient as well.
I didn't know we had student council meetings every week though, Subira.
Do you know what? What I did as my forums were held every single week. Sorry that
All right, okay. All right. Yeah, as Subira, Jimi, and Zainab said, there's a lot of skills that you enhance and you finesse actually within a very short span of time, because you don't have that sort of time as a probation or a learning sort of a period where you will kind of go through certain training. Yes, we do go through some training, but it doesn't really sort of prep us up for the big sort of a role that we are going in, because we straight away start working on strategical stuff and operational stuff, and we don't even sometimes know the definition between those two actually when we get in. So some of the skills I'd say, just like Jimmy mentioned, the leadership skills, the communication, influencing the political dynamics within an office space and an organizational setting, etc. So it's, for me personally, I've always said the academic affairs officer role has catapulted me into this position where I am today, and hopefully in the future in my career as well. And it takes you through a journey within 12 months in a very fast-paced journey actually. And it's all about, if you can keep your what you call mind open and learn, absorb everything, and at the same time making a positive change for the students. And when you go out of the university, the students become your customers, such as, you'll be quoting examples that you have done these sort of things to improve the experience of students. In essence, that means for a customer, and that's how the employers will look at it actually. So it's pretty much the first sort of role that you get in, and you get a lot of experience, a lot of learning out of it, and then that's pretty much what has positioned, I think, all of us, by the sound of it, into the places where we are in today.
Excellent, thank you. And when you were all campaigning, I mean, campaigning now is obviously very different, not just because of the current situation, but even just generally rules have changed and stuff. Whether it's the best or the worst is up to you to decide. But it was obviously an experience none of you will forget. I remember, I would remember when Zainab was running, I think, and Subira, I believe. I don't know, the husband and Jimmy, no, don't think so. And it was just, the time around the union, it was vibrant, people running around with iPads and stuff. It was always a very interesting experience. What are your favorite memories, fondest memories of campaigning? And you look at yourself from that moment when you were trying to get votes for a sub position, and looking at yourselves now, what's changed? Obviously a lot has, but yeah, what best moments of campaigning?
Best moments. Okay. I think I'll start with best moments actually.
Let's do worst moments as well. We'll do a mix. Yeah, why not?
Okay, I'll go with best first. I think it's there's no other feeling, even though, because ours was for 3 days, 3 to 4 days. And I think getting together with other people that you haven't met at uni, you probably would never have met.
Mm.
And everyone's kind of in it together. Everyone's, even though you're against other people, but when you kind of start forming a team with other people, it's a great feeling. It's great. It's oh, no, I'm lying. It's horrible. Do you know what? No, I hated it. No,
Be honest, yeah.
Actually, no, I hated it. I thought it was horrible. And I think them allowing you they were doing the thing where they stopped it at 12 o'clock or something.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I think that was the best thing they could have done, because doing it overnight, horrendous. I hated it, every single part of it. No.
I remember your
12
campaign.
midnight, did you say?
Yeah, was it 12 or like after a certain time? There was something where it was cut off, because I know my first year, it was 24 hours, I think. Was it Jimmy?
Yeah, it was.
No,
Yeah,
I think I cut it off around 2 a.m. I think that's when
No.
No, I think our first year,
Really cool.
the next year it was until 12. So my first year, it was one of those ones. It was 24 hours. Like,
yeah,
you were always thinking about when you were sleeping. It was like, okay, who's taking my votes? It was, I hate it.
That's
I was
dangerous.
up until 4 a.m, so I can vouch for it.
Zainab, sorry, you were going to say something, but I interrupted.
Sorry,
No,
I
was saying that I remembered Subira's campaign. There was a cartoon figure of you, like a builder, going like this. It was brilliant. It was my first year.
That was fun.
And I loved it. I thought you were fantastic, honestly. But I think I remember my experience. I actually really enjoyed it. So all my friends were really stressed, and I let them do all the stressing. They were cooking for me and everything, and it was brilliant. It was so chilled. And I remember on one of the nights there was some kind of I don't know, an argument or something like that, and I had to calm people down. I was like, I'm not even getting offended by this, so why are you getting offended? But yeah, it's a really weird experience, and I think probably one of the best parts of it is just the fact that loads of people come together and they believe in you, and like the fact that they have sleepless nights and they will skip lectures, don't tell anyone, for you, and all this kind of stuff. Like, it was just brilliant. I was like, oh wow, like what did I do to deserve this? And I just think that's and a great experience, even though it was stressful.
Excellent. And Jimmy, you were running before my time, and obviously that has to have things I assume have changed, but what was it like for you? Because 2014, 2015 seems like an age for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think
he's actually known as King Jimmy, by the way, just putting out there. When it comes
to King Jimmy, is that what we call it? Okay.
I was waiting for someone to mention it. Thank you, Subira. Thank you.
Well, I have to hear a backstory for that as well, though. But
no, I mean, I think when I ran, it was definitely I'd say a lot more hectic, and I think at the time student politics was a lot more, I'd say, a little bit factional as well. So it was definitely really tense when you're thinking about who your opponent was. And when I ran, I was actually going against a friend of mine who we had an agreement, a Tony Blair, Gordon Brown agreement, where he'd stepped down after a year. He didn't step down. I had to go against him. I ended up beating him, of course, but it was definitely tense. But I think the vibe on campus was definitely it. That's one of the parts I definitely loved as well, because it was busy. There was so many people around. And similar to what Zainab said as well, when you're running and you have people who are rallying behind you, it was a good feeling, but sometimes you almost feel kind of unworthy of this, to think, wow, all these people believe in what I'm offering. All these people want to support my bid to run the union or to run an election as well. So it's definitely a humbling experience as well for me. And that's the thing that I definitely take out of it. Even till today, I think to myself, wow, these people actually took out their time to help campaign for me. I mean, granted, I did run my campaign like a military exercise. I had spreadsheets, I had everything covered. I was calculating votes per minute, votes per region. I had it all sorted out.
Per region?
Wait, I need to, wait, can I just cut you off? I'm so sorry. But Jimmy, literally, he innovated the way everyone else kind of ran their election after that, seeing how rigid and like understanding that, okay, once we've got this section, that means we need this many votes. He knew he'd won the election like a day before he even won. So the last day he was like, even the last day he was still like this military campaign. And after that, I think people understood how campaigns could be run and won. For sure, because that changed it for me as well.
I'm just trying to get my head around the region bit, because I mean, are you going by Bradford postcode? You're trying to get all
no,
the
so
all the
I'm thinking about areas on campus. Like School of Management, you'd get less votes where you've got to work out the timings when people come because they had to take the bus there and go back, so you target them at
You worked that
1
all out?
I had it all sorted, man. All
Wow.
sorted.
Sorry, that your campaign team have to be friends beforehand, like as in you need to get, if you know you're running, by January, you need to have your campaign sorted and have them meet on a regular basis so that by the time it comes to elections, everyone is friends and they want to go out and actually run together. That was something that I definitely learned from you.
And a lot of people who might be thinking of becoming a sub, they might think that their sole communication is with the students. Obviously, it's a very big part, but as we learn, especially with Hazmin, there's a large part of working with senior management. So Hazmin, tell us a bit about the work you did with senior management, how that was, and obviously the others. I'm sure you did a lot, but Hazmin's experience shouts out to me because apparently he was.
I mean, just before we move on to that question. Just before we move on to that question, Con, I need to talk about my campaign experience as well.
Oh, okay. Apologies. I didn't leave you out intentionally.
That would be an offense, actually, because to this day it's been spoken. I had a lot of advice from Jimi and a very constrained budget, and I had to really, really use my economist brain to make sure that I make use of every penny. So.
Oh yeah.
So what was your budget?
Was it?
Be honest.
It was 100 quid or something, and then it came down to 50.
Yes.
Yeah, and then I was like, Jimi, what the hell are you playing at, man? 50 quid ain't gonna do anything. Anyway, contrastingly, very different to Subira's experience. I probably think those 3 days were my best days, actually. I used to wake up at 5 and go all the way until 3 or 4 o'clock. And I was having only a couple hours sleep. So my experience was different because I wasn't really known within the union. So I was quite a unknown sort of a face within the students' union because I wasn't involved in societies, clubs. I was just a student rep within a department. And so it was very academic oriented and no one knew me. So I had a very good friend who had completed his degree in media and photography. So I had no clue about posters and how to make it really nice and all that kind of stuff, the jazzy stuff. I spoke to him and he said, Hazmin, even if you're going to lose the election, we'll have to leave a mark and then come out of it. Actually, people should talk about your campaign. So that was the sort of theme and the premise I established my campaign. And we had a theme actually, which is red color. And we went with all the posters and I stuck posters everywhere across the campus, even in toilets. I was the first one to do that actually. And then the funny bit actually in my campaign experience, well, not a lot of people knew me at the uni actually at the time. And this was about a couple of days before the elections. I was walking on the road and buying some stuff from Sainsbury's and there were 2 girls actually. Oh, this guy is Hazim. I was like, yeah. We saw you in the toilet, pal. We're going to be voting you. I'm like, yes, mate, that's 2 votes coming in now. So yeah, those sorts of innovative, creative ways of thinking really helped me. And I was up against a very, very credible opponent, actually, not an opponent, a very good, very credible, an officer who was running against me. And he was very well known. So it was a tough challenge for me. But then again, I had to take it up and really run my campaign very tightly. And then, we won the election by a huge margin. And I think that was the second highest margin after Jimi's election, actually.
I was going to say 5,500 votes, which is the best ever in UBU history. That's what Jimi got, which is just crazy.
Yeah.
What was yours, Hazmin? Do you remember?
My total vote count was 1,860 or something, but the total complete vote count was somewhere around 5.5, 5.3, I guess.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about Jimi's personal. Yeah. You what?
I think just added an extra 1,000 to his votes. Let's not pretend here.
What did you say?
I said Hazmin just adding an extra 1,000 to his votes.
No, I seriously did. I had 1,860.
Okay.
I still remember to this day, actually, because you know what I mean. But then again, yes. And then in that question in itself, Connor, you were talking about the current sort of scenarios and how do we campaign. It's a creative way. You'll have to think differently and use the social media tools and start working in very different ways that will appeal to the masses. Actually, majority of the students might be in TikTok. I'm not in TikTok. Maybe that's the way you should be campaigning this time around. You don't have a problem with the budgets. You don't have a problem with getting T-shirts, posters, massive pizzas for all the campaigners. And then, as everyone said, pretty much all my third year friends came to campaign with me, and they said, "There has been, we want to help you." And that to this day, it's still is in my mind actually, because third year students, we're on the final leg of our dissertation, just a few weeks before we submit. And I can still remember Anita, Tutu, the whole lot. They were out there campaigning for me. And then I had a good chunk of international students as well who were getting the Chinese votes, the European votes. So it's about that strategy. How do you really, really see it, break it down? Just like Jimi said, you need to really, really get into it and get the right people in and then get the votes.
Okay,
so moving on.
We've been talking for about 15 minutes.
Yeah, sorry, moving on to the second question.
Actually, before you say that, we've got a comment from Abdul Rauf who said Subira set levels for sure. So there's a nice compliment for you. And Samira says examples of Hazmin are used to this day. And then we've got a negative comment from regarding Hazmin that we won't mention. So
no, go for it.
He made enemies.
Hazmin was a true outsider. He was not the favorite to win. Ran an amazing campaign. Okay,
that's a positive. That's true.
Well, the last bit was positive. Yeah,
I'll tell you. But well, when I announced the library 24/7, I didn't get a single clap. So I'm not really new to this.
Well, actually, yeah, it's funny. It's funny. Dan mentioned that to me recently, but we'll get onto that because we'll talk about personal development and stuff.
So yeah, let's get on to the next question pertaining to the senior management team.
Yes.
Well, that goes back to Jimi's point in stakeholder management. One thing that I understood very early in my sabbatical role was understanding how to manage relationships, build relationships, and also offer something to the university whilst we're expecting something from the uni, just making sure that there is a win-win situation, as opposed to taking a road where you just talk about this is what the students require and this is what we need, and you just go on a very offensive mood that will not help actually in any, even if you go out to the wide world and when you start working, if you're offensive, you're not going to get anything done. So one thing that I learned was like really toning my temp down, just the anger and all that kind of stuff, and really understanding where people are coming from. And why do they have any sort of reservations for an idea, or maybe what's the sort of thoughts behind it, and work on those, and then start shaping up towards our idea. Actually, that's the sort of way I was moving. So I also invested a lot of hours as well with the senior management team whenever they ask me. So it's more of give and take as well. So whenever you put more time into someone else's area, they will always give you that time as well. So yeah, I had some very good relationships with PVCs, the deans of the faculties, associate deans, and the DVCs actually. So it was more of getting the understanding about the senior management team, their relationships, and the primary thing is budgets. Actually, money is not grown on trees. We need to understand there is a restrained budget. We'll just have to make use of what's out there. And then understanding how to communicate as well, just making sure that you'll have to jump on certain areas where you know that there is a political gain. So those sort of little nuances actually.
Thanks, Hazmin. And obviously this is for all of you. Obviously, going from being a student to working with senior management is quite a big jump. Did you get any help in your development with that? What was the training like in preparing yourselves for that? Or was it all were you just thrown into the deep end?
I mean, I think my year, I think Dan, you offered the training. I think it was quite, it was okay as well, actually. Again, I think any training you get doesn't necessarily always prepare you for what's actually going to happen, right? You can have a role play in this scenario, but when you've got a person in management you don't get along with, your emotions at the time, how you feel at the time dictates your actions at the time as well. So, I mean, the training was good, but I think a lot of the time with this, the flexibility of this is that it allows the individuals for them to kind of learn about themselves when they encounter these situations with management, and also to reflect on how they've dealt with situations. I think Andy was very good at kind of taking us back after and say, oh, well, we just had this meeting with so-and-so. How did you think it went? Is there anything we could have done better? And it gave us the opportunity to reflect on how we were interacting with these people. So I think, yes, training does help, but I think with all life situations, when you get into it, that's when you really find out for yourself.
It's the on-the-job experience, really, that pays it off, isn't it? Anyone else?
I think
yeah,
go on.
Mine's a bit different to the rest of them, just because I didn't spend as much time with senior management as the other three did. So it was I guess it was still nerve-wracking. It took some time to get comfortable because I wasn't seeing them regularly. They did still feel like senior management as opposed to kind of partnering. And I think with that, it was just kind of being able to understand the work that you were doing, and how it was affecting students rather than trying to compete. Because I think sometimes it does feel as though kind of people, the sabbatical officers that had more regular contact with senior management, it got to a point where people would start trying to compete, when I think that was never the point. It was understanding whose roles were where, and where your kind of where your strengths lied, rather than trying to fit yourself into areas that didn't really concern you. And I think once you kind of were able to understand that, being around senior management, or even allowing other sabbatical officers that may have a better relationship with them to take your point across. Not saying that it lowered your point, but if anything, the whole point was that we wanted to help students. So whoever took the message to them, it didn't really matter, but as long as it was taken, that was the main thing.
Yeah, and just adding, sorry, Connor, just adding to that.
I was actually going to bring it to you anyway, so yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, just adding to that, I think actually it's really helpful just to make sure that you know your stuff. So when you are in a meeting with anybody, even if they turn around and be like, okay, Zainab, what do the students think? And I remember always thinking, okay, then actually you want me to give an answer that all students think the same, and that's not the case. But actually being able to see, understand and relay the different perspectives is really helpful. And actually you don't get to be able to do that until you actually engage with the students. So as much as training as it's really helpful, you actually just need to be speaking to the students, understanding the issues that they're facing, what matters to them, etc.
Thank you. I mean, and when we speak to senior management now, anyway, what they like about the union is that the Sabbs just treat them like normal human beings, while maybe other staff members might be a bit almost nervous to talk to them. So that's obviously a very big thing. And put your hand up if you're a manager now.
If you what?
If you're a manager. So you're all managers. Do you think that your experience in working with management, senior management, has helped you almost manage people and work into the role you're doing now?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely, it allows you to also manage people that may be older than you, because that was something that was quite a shock to me at the beginning as a sabbatical officer. But then also understanding that you can ask for help, and that's fine. I think it's not trying to take things on for yourself. And having the ability to delegate things is something I definitely learned from the union. Is understanding that you can't do everything yourself, and when you do try, you will hit a brick wall. So delegation was something I definitely learned within becoming a sabbatical officer.
Excellent.
I think with my experience in managing, I think I've learned kind of the opposite. I think many people know my time as a SAB didn't come without any controversy, and I often did whatever I could to get my way, and even sometimes I don't like to say just dismissing other opinions and not listening to everybody around the table. And that was the start in the student environment. And when it got to me actually managing my own team in the office space, and realizing, okay, well, I'm much more mature now. I look back at my experience as a SAB and say, oh, okay, how do I really want to get the best out of my team? And it's definitely not how I used to do it as a SAB. And so on the flip side, I mean, I'm more focused on trying to make sure that my team is happy, they're comfortable around me, and they're able to say what they want to say, but also that I'm able to support them as well.
What were you like as a SAB then, Jimmy? I
mean, I was, I got what I wanted done. I was a bulldozer. I definitely think I was a bulldozer. And it was to the benefit of the union at the time. It did come at a cost, of course. But I was definitely a bulldozer. Whatever I wanted, I was getting done. And I realized
he wanted a statue of himself, like at the entrance.
That
broke last minute.
We'll have to Jimmy that, because the union required certain types of personalities at the time to work with the senior management team. And I think the years before us, they were really sort of on a very straightforward, I wouldn't say offensive, but just making sure that things are getting done. There is no room for just sort of having a laugh, etc. But whereas when it came to my year, it was more of managing that relationship and seeing if we can develop any of that relationship, because we were under the impression that the senior management team could be there for a while. So if the next sabbatical team comes in, there's going to be a lot more sort of damage control. Having said that, it doesn't mean that these guys were damaging the relationship, but they were making use of the relationship in a very different way to how we were operating, actually. So, I actually forgot the question.
Yeah, so have I, to be honest. It's not your fault, it's my fault. It's senior management, there we go. Work with senior management, I think.
Yeah.
think,
So
just going off, sorry, I haven't to cut you off, I'm so sorry. But just going off that, I think it's also that the years, I think with Jimmy's year and going on to our years and so forth, I think there was a change in the structure anyway. So kind of the union against the university couldn't really work the way it did before. So I think with Jimmy starting and you and like Aleem as well continuing, there did have to kind of become a relationship with the university, whether we liked it or not. And I think that's something that was quite difficult to explain to a union that was kind of always at rifts with the university.
Of course, yeah. And just going off from what Jimmy said about, he looked back at his past self and, how he worked. For us, this is a question for all of you. If you could give your past self when you were a Sabb one bit of advice, what would it be?
I'd say
Not to
relax.
second guess myself. Sorry. You go first, Jimmy. I can't see everybody on the screen, so I keep on cutting across. You go first.
There is a thing called gallery view. If you can just click that, Zainab, it will bring all everyone on the same screen.
It's because I'm doing it on my phone, so it only lets 4 people at the same time. But it's fine. Sorry, Jimmy.
Yeah, I'd say to myself, relax and enjoy it a bit more. I definitely took a lot of the burden on myself. I think I took a lot of things not to my head, but I definitely had a lot of stuff on my shoulders. And I really should have just enjoyed that time being a Sabb. Because I look back now to the time that I had compared to what I'm doing now, working where I work now. And I'm thinking, wow, look, I had the opportunity to run an organization. I could have done so much more with it. I could have done a lot more then. But a lot of the times, it was more of like my head getting in the way of and not allowing me to enjoy it for what it really was. So I definitely say to myself, yeah, back then, just relax, enjoy it. Don't take things too seriously. Enjoy the experience, enjoy the moment.
Contrary to the popular opinion, actually, I think I might say I could have tried a bit more, actually, a bit more gas in my tank to help students and really shape their experience. Although we were really in the union, we're really doing a lot of work and all that kind of stuff. But that place, it just takes your passion. There's a lot of passion in that place. There's a lot of heart. And no matter how much you do, it always feels like it's not enough. To this day, I still look back and I think, should I have spent a bit more time? Should I have spent a bit more time in the evenings and, looked into some of the stuff that I could have done, etc., etc. So, but it will be a regret I think we will all have, that we could have done more. But the more I mature, maybe the answer might change, that I look back and I could have enjoyed, etc. But I always have this thinking, because when you're in that 12 months, that 12 months goes like, it's just the fastest 12 months that you'll ever come across your life, actually. So you haven't got time to look around. You've got a lot of things to do. And so many meetings, in particular Jimmy's, the Zainab's and mine and Jimmy's role, actually, we have a lot of meetings. We'll have to switch our brains from one to another. But yeah, it was a very, very fun experience. I don't think we'll ever have the experience. I don't know if we will, but yeah. So I would always recommend everyone to go for it.
Thanks.
So long as you can win it.
And Zainab, what advice would you give your past self?
Just not to second guess myself. I think sometimes, so I was in quite a male-dominated, there's quite a lot of strong males around me. And I think sometimes I second-guess myself a little bit right at the start. And actually, I learned over the time that just be confident and actually you do know what you're talking about, and listen to people and get people's advice. But also, yeah, don't second-guess yourself, because your instincts are probably right.
It's very important. And Subira?
I think I say the same with Zainab, especially with the role that I was in. It sometimes felt as though I was trying to not explain why it was necessary. I think I was able to do that, but I think because of the fear of the role being seen as less than, I would try really hard to make sure that it was at the forefront. And I think sometimes I would overexert myself to get involved in things that didn't concern me or shouldn't have concerned me. I should have taken it further. But knowing that, like, I felt I could be the only person that could do it. I wish I kind of just relaxed a little bit more in that sense.
Why are you smirking, Hazmin?
No, I mean, some of the stuff I can remember actually during Sabira's. So I'm just things are just running.
I think it got to a point where I was having to kind of babysit both
Yeah.
the academic
That's
affairs
not true.
and student affairs exercise. Just because I think it was, no, before, from going on what you were saying, because you were saying that you know, there was, I guess, a gap between the student life of things when it came to you guys and the senior management. And sometimes it felt as though I was kind of the cross between to kind of explain to them why this shouldn't work and stuff. So I think there was some babysitting that I had to do that I probably shouldn't have had to do.
And
Well, yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, I think that just goes into a very niche skill. Actually, we were just talking about teamwork, and actually within our team, we had very strong opinions and very strong ideas. And I can remember there was a plan with the university where they were planning to establish a new enterprise in a green belt zone. Is that right, Subira?
Yeah.
And me and Subira were debating for hours, and I was for the idea. Subira was completely against it. So it didn't. The idea didn't get fruition in the university. But that's the sort of team dynamics we had. Actually, we always debated things that we didn't agree or we agreed on, etc. So it was always healthy. I think we had a healthy team. Actually, I don't know if everyone would agree.
No, from what I've heard, you all did. And we got a comment that said, you know, due to lockdown and online learning, there may be students running for positions who haven't had the opportunity to meet other students or develop social networks. What advice would you give for these students? You may be up against students who were around for longer and before lockdown and already have built those relationships. Would you, I assume you'd all encourage them to go for it, but what advice would you give them if they're in that position?
I think I would probably say utilize social media the way you do it already, because you gain followers of people that you don't know, that log into, you know, check your social media every time you post or whatever. So I think utilize that same approach and kind of getting yourself out there in terms of, I don't know if there's Facebook groups or anything like that, and getting yourself across in that sense. But I think it would be difficult because I think being able to engage with students face to face is probably one of the easiest ways to get them to, you know, want to vote for you. But I think utilize social media as much as possible because that's all you really have at the moment.
For sure. Anyone else want to chip in?
Zainab, you go for it.
Completely agree. I think it is just social media at the moment, isn't it? Because unfortunately things are much more difficult. So yeah, just use social media as much as possible and try and cascade. So if you use social media, maybe get your friend to also post something and share it, etc., and just work it through that, do it that way, and just use as many creative ways as possible. So a good TikTok dance never hurt anyone.
Excellent. And go ahead.
I think looking within your classroom, actually, there will be a lot of people who are influential, who will have a lot of influence over over different groups of students. And you can tap into them, speak to them, and start making use of those social networks. It's not always that you have to look outside. Look within your classroom. There'll be a lot of students with involved in various societies, clubs, etc., etc. So you can make use of them. And then, as Zainab saying, you'll have to be 100% creative, and just don't get put off actually just for the fact that you're not in the campus. This might be the year that you guys might completely change the whole way of campaigning. And, you know, this might be a year that we'll be talking about campaigning for the next 5 to 10 years, you know, maybe 2015, 14, those are the campaigns that has been spoken to this day. But this year might be the next sort of base year that people start talking about campaigning. So innovation and creation.
Well, actually, I like that point because I'm sure it was the same when you were running. There seems to be an obsession with posters. And maybe this is the time when people will step away and think, you know, maybe it's more how you utilize social media, how you contact students, and stuff like that. So no, that's a very good point. Jimmy, do you have anything to add, or?
No, I mean, I echo what Subira and Hazmin have said, and just go for it. Just go for it. I mean, there's no. I mean, you don't want to regret not even trying to reach out to people. So use your current networks, use the people in your course that you already know. They also have, you know, if you know 5 people, well, those 5 people also know 5 people, those other 5 people know another 5 people. So it spreads out. Just do the maths with it as well, and you'll be able to get your content out. Obviously, I know there's obviously pressure to have a presence on social media, but often often is the case that not everybody who has the biggest social media profile or presence always wins. So don't even get put off by that as well. Just make sure that you have your connects, people who you know will vouch for you, people who you know will support you, and go through your networks as well. Obviously have a social media presence, but if you don't have one, don't be disenfranchised by that as well.
For sure.
I'd also say don't be afraid to ask as well. As in, there's certain people that have certain skills that you might not have. Like for me, with as I was saying about my campaign, it was a person, Alexandra, that I wouldn't have even spoken to usually, but then through the union, just being able to speak to and asking her for her help completely transformed my campaign. So just reach out to people that, even if they're not in your inner circle, just reach out, because I think people are more than happy to help if they're asked. So don't be afraid to do that as well.
Cool. Thanks very much.
I think just last thing for me is just don't underestimate the power of as well. I sent loads of people just WhatsApp messages being like, please vote, and they did. So yeah.
Excellent. And so sounds like all of you had a great experience when it comes to the actual role and the campaigning. What are your best moments? Have you got any funny stories, or maybe not so funny stories that you think are worth sharing, appropriate to share?
Oh,
I'll go off and say that I was very lucky in my year that I was able to travel, and it's still something that I'm very grateful for. No, I mean, I was 21 years old. I was 21 years old. I was being sent to Singapore, Malaysia, Tanzania, all of business class as well. I know somebody's going to try and check how much it cost, but so I was able to do that as well, which is a very good experience. I was able to go around the world, which that's definitely something which is that I don't forget. But also just being able to have that experience with my friends on campus, that was definitely something that I appreciated as well. So yeah, I had a definitely good experience there whilst I was at Sabbs.
but did you ask campaign stories or just stories in general?
Best moments.
Best moments, funny stories, campaign stories, role stories, whatever.
So I can go whilst everyone else is thinking. Best moment. There are more than a few actually. Personally, I might have fallen in love, contrary to the oh, right, okay. Professionally, I think just before I finished my term, there was a class, chemistry actually, life science within Zainab's area. There were about 40 students who had a significant issue, and I dealt with it, and we completely turned a judgment that was passed on those students within 2 weeks, and they were all able to graduate during summer. And I still have some of the emails that I got from those students saying that some of the girls got married because they graduated, because their marriage was kind of on the line. Some of the guys and some of the students, they got jobs because they could graduate. So I still have those emails. That was the best moment for me in that whole year. No, the library 24/7 didn't give me that sort of contentment. That getting that 40 students over the line was the best moment. Worst, I don't think I have any. I don't know if anyone would be able to say I had more than a few worst moments, but I didn't have any. That was the best experience.
I don't know if anyone could beat that. Hazmin just said he saved a relationship.
Well, I would like to say I kept students hydrated, okay?
Oh, you did?
I'm very proud of my hydration station that we had at every single FND, making sure that no matter what happened, students were always hydrated and they always had pancakes. So I think I did my job, guys. So I'm very proud of that.
I've actually got another one as well. I've got another one just to try and compete with Hazmin, which was so everybody, people, if you go into the union, you'll see this honours board, which I signed off on my last day as a Sabb, and I think it cost about $2,000. And I was like, I don't care, I'm signing it off. I ordered it and it arrived after I left. So a couple months later, Andy sent me an email, and what he said in the email was that a former Sabb had come back to the union and had seen his name on the honours board. And he unfortunately passed away. So Andy was coming from his funeral. And at his funeral, it was mentioned that how one of his proudest moments was going back to the SU and seeing his name on the honours board. And that made him very proud. And this is like obviously a couple of weeks before he had passed away. So that was definitely a nice thing to hear. that my vanity project, as it was thought to be,
We
made
loved
somebody who was a
I
Sabb
think,
in the
yeah,
50s.
it was beautiful. It was one of the best things, I think, in the union. You got your names engraved, and it's one of those things it will never go old in fashion either.
Well, a lot of the time, vanity projects do help others, whether they were intended or not. I'm sure it was intended, Jimmy, but you know, as you can see, obviously it did help a lot. Zainab, what about you?
You're on mute, Zainab.
Zainab, sorry.
Oh, for goodness sake, you'd think that I'd be new to this now. But I said, I can't really compete with Jimmy's, can you? But I think the funniest thing for me was, so I was on a slate, and the slate was called OTOV, so One Team, One Vision. And we had stickers for months and months afterwards. You would just find random stickers like in the toilets and everywhere around uni. So that was funny, but yeah.
God, the poor cleaners.
I know, I think they probably just gave up with trying to get rid of them, to be honest.
Yeah. We got a comment saying Hazmin's best moment was actually going on the Adam and Dan show. Do you want to defend yourself, Hazmin?
Which dance show?
The Adam and Dan show.
The Adam and Dan show.
Oh yeah, that was the best thing actually that happened to me. I even got my favorite song played in that one, so
God.
I'm really happy about
Loads
it.
of listeners, I bet.
You what?
Loads of listeners, I bet.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you for all your experiences. I'm just cautious of the time here. I think, you know, once we go on the topic of elections, there's going to be some people watching this, and we're going to republish it on our social media pages, so we make it available for people who can't tune in live as well. And what would your main bits of advice be for people wanting to run or thinking of running, or you know, might have some reservations about doing so? What would your advice be to them?
Don't think about it too much, just do it. I think I thought about it way too much, and actually there were so many, like Subira, you would know, like there's so many people telling me just do it, and I completely overthought it. But yeah, it's one of the best decisions I've ever made, so just do it.
Literally, that's it. I think it's the more you think about it, the more you'll probably stop yourself. And at the end of the day, what you can accomplish from actually running as a Sabb can change the trajectory of your life. So it's just worth doing it. And even if you do lose, I think the things that you learn whilst even the 3-day campaigning or whatever, that period of time, what you learn in that can really catapult you for the rest of your life. So I think it's always a win-win situation. So just go for it. Because even I didn't want to run. I think there were so many times that I was like, I'm just going to drop out. I'm not going to do it. I can't. There was literally no self-belief. And then being able to see from just an idea to what you can actually create, your self-esteem.
Well, she had the best slate, so she was persuaded into that. Actually.
Oh, I thought we'd get away without talking about slates.
Anyway, I think I'll just add my 2 cents, and Jimi can give us a very good view of the whole thing. I would say just run and have a winner's mentality. If you have that element that you might lose, you've already lost. Actually, I've always had that thing, you know, you're not going to lose. You're going to put your 100%, and if it requires more hours, maybe that might be a bit controversial. Subira might not agree with me. Yes, you have to do it, because for you to achieve something, I mean, we're not in our positions today without trying. If you don't take your first step, you're not going to get anywhere. And this is this is probably the best step you could take in your life, actually. So if you can go for it and go with the winner's mentality, that you are definitely going to think differently, think creatively, and get your campaign, get people to see you and vote for you, and you'll be in the position, and you'll do a massive, you'll do significant changes for the student experience. So definitely going for it. That would be my sort of best piece of advice for them.
Yeah, and I think I'd like to echo what the guys have said. I think, yeah, just go for it. I think running for the election is one of those moments in life which can literally change the trajectory your life is going in. And it's one which you're almost in control of as well, right? And I myself personally, I always say to people, I would not be in the position I am had I not been in the SU, had I not run in elections. I'm working in a good bank. I was a very young manager at the time as well, and up until now. And I still think, I'm like, wow, if I hadn't done that, what would I be doing now? And I guess to kind of allude to what Hazmin said, I mean, yeah, if you lose, you lose. If you win, you win. but I would definitely say, I mean, the pain, it's a phrase I've heard before, the pain of regret is worse than the pain of fear.
True.
And you don't want to get to 2-3 years time thinking, damn, I really should have done it. You know, just go for it, just try it. If you win, great news, you get to run, you know, be part of a sabbatical team, get to make some changes. If you don't win, you've actually, there's still benefits that you've engaged the people, you've developed a bit more confidence, you're able to at least get your point across, and which still help you when it comes to applying for roles in the future, when it comes to just everyday life as well. So I think no matter what, it's a win-win. Even if you lose, it's still a win because you've learned something more about yourself and your ability to get your point across as well. So just go for it.
Excellent. Thanks all. That's really good stuff. Yeah, go for it. It's obviously the main point that we're making. So obviously the roles have changed slightly since you were all subs. Someone has commented saying, "Hi everyone, nice to meet you all. I'll be applying for activities and community and activities officer." So that's probably closest to Subira's role, being community and welfare officer. Do you have any ideas of how we can campaign online? Obviously, we mentioned social media. What would, if we make this relatively brief, what would your advice to her be?
So was she asking about how to campaign?
Yes, online.
Online. So I would probably say showcasing your ideas is the best thing to do. So just letting people know if they're to vote for you, what does that mean? Showcasing what you have. Also, using the links that you have, as Jimmy said before, 5 people know 5 people know 5 people. So just getting everything you can over to more people. That is probably, I think, the best thing to do. Also reaching out to societies, because it's community and welfare, maybe getting, I don't know what it is in terms of endorsements, but reaching out to local Bradford organizations, seeing if they can endorse you. I think that's the best thing, just highlighting all the work that you can do and all the connections that you have. That's what I think I would probably have done.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Subira. Well, I think this, before you bring us to the end of this, have you got anything else to add?
No, just good luck. Hopefully everyone runs.
Good luck,
Excellent.
everyone. Run a best campaign and a very innovative campaign. We're all looking forward. I think Jimi will agree with me. When it is UBU elections time, we're all on Twitter. We're looking at it. Who is beefing with whom? And you know what's
Hazmin, you're probably looking at it 24/7. Unfortunately, I actually have work, you know, so I do other stuff besides.
Oh, here we go.
Well, yeah. And then we can also see who's going to be tweeting the most during UBU election anyway.
But no, I think it's really good to see, you know, you've all gone into very good jobs, very good places, you're all managers, and hopefully that will give people, you know, an insight and see, you know, what can come from being a sub officer. And to everybody listening who is interested, go to Bradford Uni SU /elections21, I think. Check the link in the Instagram bio, just double check that. And yeah, nominate yourself, say why you'd be great for the role, and go from there. So yeah, thanks everyone, and have a good evening.
Good luck. See you guys. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.